Can you introduce yourself, guys?
I'm Patty.
And I'm Ben.
We sing in a band called As It Is, and we're here in Toronto with Over the Bridge, and it's going to be a good time.
All right, guys, so can you tell me a little bit about your band's journey with mental health?
I mean, from the very beginning, it's always been very important to us to just be like as open and honest about ourselves as possible. Our last record, OK, I think that was when we really started to talk about it in a much like bolder, bigger way than ever before. Our whole mantra about it was like, it's okay to not be okay, it's okay to talk about it. We would talk about very personal issues to us in the hopes that we can encourage other people to share with friends, family, and that was a really tough record for us to write because it was so personal and there were so many issues. And now with this new record, it's about encouraging people to listen. Sorry, I must have knocked your coffee over. Encouraging people to listen, because if people are just talking and there's no one there listening, then always say like the death of Chester Bennington really shaped this new record. That really like impacted us, and it really shaped the record because you see it in his lyrics. He's saying all these things, but no one I guess really was taking it seriously, and we wanted to kind of talk about that and encourage people to listen to other people more this time around.
Now, what was the moment that brought you guys to this point? What was the moment in your head that just said, we need to go public, we need to talk more about it?
I guess for me personally, Warped in 15, I learned the hard way about struggling with my mental health and how dealing with everything internally and without a support system, how detrimental that was to me. So there's a certain amount of like poetry in coming back to Warped 18. I teach I kind of host a mental health workshop with my friend Johnny from Hope for the Day every morning. Just talking about the things I've learned. I think the thing that we always try to remember is that, we're not therapists, we're not counselors, we're not psychologists, so we can only talk about our own experiences. So we don't necessarily give advice. We just say, this is what we experienced, this is what helped us. But after Warped 15, I dealt with everything totally isolated, very negatively and poorly for a little over a year until I broke down, couldn't stop crying, and saw a therapist, and was finally like open and honest with everybody. And for me, there was really just no shame in kind of telling these guys that I was seeing a therapist. So telling our fans equally didn't really hold any stigma. So we really just wanted to like shatter any kind of like false stigma or just kind of preconception about seeing a therapist doesn't make you crazy. It's just kind of something that people need sometimes. Talking doesn't make us like vulnerable or weaker than anybody else. So being kind of like super transparent about it was never that difficult for us. So yeah, we wanted to just kind of use ourselves as this kind of, I don't know, example of let's all talk together, let's be stronger together, basically.
Now, I heard you mention before, as you were talking before, about the importance of listening. So you guys have spoken through your album. Now, how do you find it's being received, or how do you really work to make sure that people are hearing that message that it's okay not to be okay?
Well, I think a certain amount of the responsibility falls on us that, it's about listening. And if we're only talking and not acting, then we're part of the problem. So that's why we've paired up with so many nonprofits this record, at least 3 or 4 at this point, with the record not even having been dropped. So it's very important. We've done a lot of, raising money for good causes, just kind of making sure resources are very easily and readily available. But equally just kind of, being there to talk about these kind of things. I think this scene, it's one of the best things about this scene is that we talk about the injustices and the struggles that we face as a people in a world. And yeah, it's important to us. It's not pandering. Like, this means a lot to us, us personally, and just kind of, moving the world in a better place, I think.
I think that's the thing. There's definitely going to be, and I've seen it already, there's definitely going to be like misconceptions about what we're trying to do, and we even saw it when we like launched, before we even dropped a song, and we kind of like revealed that the album was called like The Great Depression, and a lot of the album is kind of a commentary on, because mental health and depression is so like prevalent in our scene, like a commentary on whether bands are using that just to kind of sell to kids because that's what's popular to talk about, and you know, we're going to receive a lot of backlash where people think that that's what we're doing, but that's kind of missing the point. It's a commentary on it. We're not necessarily giving any answers either way. We're just opening a conversation about it, and I think encouraging that conversation. But yeah, we don't want to, like, if people think we're pandering, like, in any context, that's like the opposite of what we're about.
I think it's great that people have those opinions, that they were offended, because I think rightfully so. I think we have been. We've seen these issues dealt with in a bad way, a poor way, and we're trying to deal with them in a different way. They share the exact same sentiment that we felt writing this record.
Now, have you heard personal stories from your fans? Because you have been so public about it. How has that affected you when a fan comes up to you and says, "You're just like me"?
So many,
yeah,
countless.
We hear every day at our signings and our meet and greets. People tell us stories and open up to us, and I feel like sometimes they feel like they can open up to us more than they can like family or friends or people that are like closer to them, because they know we've been through things similar. And there's songs on the new record that kind of talk about, I guess, how that affects us, because you can fall into a trap of, like, when you have a lot of people talking about such like difficult subjects, I know I can definitely be like a sponge for people's emotions, and like when people are talking to me about really heavy things, that starts to like go into my head, and then I start to feel a bit more like that. And I'm definitely getting better at being able to like listen and it not affect my mental health as badly. I used to really struggle, and I went through a period where I really, really couldn't go out and meet kids because I couldn't cope with it for a while. I've got a lot better at that. And I know you meet a hell of a lot more people than I meet, so.
But I think one of the coolest things is when you were just open and honest on Twitter, saying, you know, like, this is a struggle for me. I'm socially anxious. Like, people are respectful of that, and it's just all part of the greater conversation. Just going, this is who I am. I'm not like this person. I'm not like that person. This is me. This is what I go through. This is my disposition, and I need to look out for myself at the end of the day. Like, the touring lifestyle is not the easiest at the best of times, and at the end of the day, this is still a job. And as much as it's something we love, we need to just kind of really care about ourselves at the end of the day too. Yeah.
So that really touched me, because the one thing when you mentioned being a sponge, how do you deal with the triggers? When people come up to you and talk like that and it gets in your head, how do you deal with those triggers so that they don't affect you as much while you're on tour?
I probably don't have the healthiest way of dealing with my issues. I drink a fair amount, but I'm, again, getting better. I think it's one of those things where I have to, like, if I have a day like that where I've like absorbed a lot of emotions from people, those are the days where I have to just like completely isolate myself from the rest of the world and just go and listen to Elliott Smith and be done with my day. It's tough. I mean, I think that's why it's specifically very difficult on Warped Tour, is there's like 100 bands out here, and finding any peace and quiet is near impossible. On a normal tour, you know, I know you love to go and do it and just take walks, go and read on a park bench somewhere, just like get away and isolate yourself, and it's very difficult out here to do that. So even just 5 minutes when you're on the bus and no one else is on the bus is really appreciated, and like can really help like kind of reset myself and go like, okay, I can go back out there. And I think I definitely have to put on a bit of like a shell when I go out and not let myself be so vulnerable to everything. And that was definitely a learning curve for me on this tour. So I'm getting there in my own way.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm painfully introverted. Like, I love being alone. I love being in quiet environments. Like, I never want to be that stereotypical rock star. That's just not who I am. So I love reading. I love playing Pokemon Go. I love just kind of like being alone, being quiet, being creative. The thing about introversion is like you get your energy from yourself and just kind of like being in solitude and stuff. So it's really tough on Warped Tour. It really is. But the thing I've kind of learned is that like self-care and self-love isn't selfish at the end of the day. It's just what you have to do to get through each day and to be your best self. Like if I'm not caring for myself, I'm not going to be useful to anybody else. It's like talking to kids, like I'm not going to have the energy or the kind of perspective I need to be useful. So at the end of the day, it's important that I do those things so I can actually like make a difference, or I like can actually be my best self. Like as much as this is like what I love, it's like this is my job. I want to do my job really well. I want to feel proud at the end of every single day. So it's important to like leave Warped Tour. It's important to leave tour. It's important to just like find perspective, be around like people with like actual real problems, because you know Warped Tour problems aren't real problems at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
It's interesting you say that, because here's my last question. Who are your people while you're on tour? If you can't get away, if you can't get that, you know, that kind of introverted solace that you need, who do you count on? And how do you guys support each other in a group of so many musicians?
I think that's the thing. Like, I mean, Warped Tour, the last time we did it in 2015 was a completely different story to this year. This year we're like the tightest unit that we've probably ever been. Everyone is looking out for each other. We didn't necessarily have that last time, which made that Warped Tour a lot harder than this one. But I think we have such a strong like trust in each other now, and having written 2 very personal records, like we know each other better than ever. So like sometimes we don't even need to say anything to each other. We can just look at each other and we know I need to either leave that person alone or on the other hand, I should go and talk to them, like depending on which it is. But we all have different bands that we're really close with, that when you need to kind of step away from your own bus and your own group, that we have, Grayscale being one.
Yep.
And yeah, it is very important to just go and socialize with different people, especially for me.
Yeah, so. Exactly.
Brothers, sisters, young and old,